everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Mind of Reese. I'm so glad you guys are all here. I am feeling hot up today. Oh my gosh. Today we're going to get into a bit of the haterade and talking about triggers and really why hate is actually so good. And we hear a lot of this a lot, but then I'm going to get into like why it's good for your messaging and your marketing. So we're just going to have a whole huge conversation. So come on in, join in, get your drinks on, get your coffee, get your tea, whatever you're doing. If you're listening to me while you're drinking a margarita, hey-yo, like, love it. Or if you're listening to me while you're tattooing, hopefully you're not drinking a margarita. Definitely not doing that. So the other day I got a message basically saying, and this is a message that I get often. I get this message all the time. It's because you have tits and ass for the reasons why you have clients, or the reasons why I have a successful business, or the reasons why it made it easier for me to get clients. I think it was a comment based on, I think the caption went, it got easier for me to get clients when I did this one thing. And the person responded, yeah, to have tits and ass also helps. And then I had received, I think, one a few months ago that said, if I had tits and ass, I'd probably make more money too. And they mentioned like you probably can't even tattoo. And I love this. I love it. So here's the thing about hate, because this is what makes me laugh so much about it, is that my content caters to tattooers who desire to grow their business. A lot of my content does. The tattoos that I do oftentimes has the messaging around it that is catering to people being more self-expressed, making the relationship to yourself a priority, because I'm the artist that believes that your success and wealth is a byproduct to your spiritual and mental health and well-being. By focusing on those things, that you can actually you can create wealth and success, as well as have a better relationship to yourself and continue to grow and grow and grow and grow from there. So that's my vibe. That's what I believe. That's the messaging that I mainly push out into the world. So when the algorithm decides to show these people my content, it is because they have been searching for ways to grow their business. And when they make comments like this, it is because they have been searching for the easy, fast, tactical ways of growing their business, right? The starving artist mentality, the one that's like living to the next dollar, doesn't want to change, wants the secret steps, the secret, quote unquote, the secret steps to growing a business without having to do anything different than they're doing now. Which, I mean, honestly, if there was some magic pill that could all of a sudden make you, the weight you wanted to make, that pill would cost a lot of money. But then they're looking through it through a free platform. And so my content shows up. And what happens is that they get triggered by it. Why do they get triggered by this? It's because they don't want to believe that the way that I do business, or the way that I'm showing up, is actually growing my business. The way that I'm saying it, because they don't actually want to change. And it triggers them, and it triggers most people. Like, think about it, case in point, your triggers, when you are triggered by someone, it oftentimes means that you either desire to do, be, or have what it is that they have, or who they are, or how they're acting, right? But we just told ourselves that we're not allowed to. So we get upset. We get upset when other people are doing things that we're like, ugh. That's where like jealousy, that's where, hate comes from. That's where doubt comes from. It's like, let me just say this out loud. I've been jealous so many times where I'll hop online, I'll see another artist doing something, and I'm just like, fuck. And I'm like, fuck. And then I'll know it's because of the fact that I desire what it is that they're doing, and I think where I'm at is not good enough. That's why it gets jealous. Now, jealousy is actually a really good feeling when we can utilize it objectively. It's like, oh, I desire to be here. Okay, but I don't make it mean something about me when I see someone having something that I don't have. I actually look at it if they're in my wheelhouse, if I'm stumbling upon their content, for instance, like I look at it as like an angel number. I'm like, oh, if that's where I desire to be, I'm looking at this as that if it's showing up in my feed, that means that I am absolutely capable of having it. Right? So when I see like my mentors, they're over here making like 10 million a year more of these kinds of things, and I'm looking to grow my business to that level. Well, it's like, okay, so if I'm going to get jealous of every time one of the people from my community, like in my community, the community that I pay to be in, the mastermind that I pay to be in with 7-figure female entrepreneurs, I get jealous every time they have a win. That what ends up happening is it makes it, what I'm creating is that jealousy. I'm making it mean something about who I am and my capabilities, and that I'm not enough. Versus me looking at it and being like, well, fuck yeah, look at them. I'm in the same room as them. This means that it's actually an angel number. It's like seeing 1111 out there, and I'm like, well, that means it's meant for me too. It's just right around the corner. If they can do it, so can I, kind of vibes, right? And I'm allowed to have both. Like, I'm allowed to have the jealousy and the celebration for them. Like, oh, the jealousy comes in. I'm like, ooh, triggers are just a gateway toward your healing. It is a sign that you need to shine a light and give some attention to a part of you that hasn't gotten any attention. So when someone gets triggered from me that doesn't know me in the online space, it's because of the fact that there's something in them that they haven't given attention to themselves, but instead of looking from within, taking full responsibility for their own shit, they project outwards. And they blame you for the reasons why things are the way they are. This industry is oversaturated, that people are playing this stupid game on Instagram, and it never used to be like this. Which, let me just really explain this very plainly to everyone here who wants to listen to this. There has never been a moment in art history where you didn't market your art. Never. If you wanted to make a name and actually pay your bills to do something, you had to market the art. And so this whole idea, this whole excuse that artists give themselves by saying, oh, when Instagram first started, it was so easy to get clients. That's not true. You were still marketing. There's still marketing aspects. You might not have known you were marketing inadvertently. And yes, maybe there were a lot less people on a platform. But this is why it's so important that when we do have new platforms and you do hop on bandwagons, that you have the immutable laws to marketing. Immutable meaning tried and true. It's an absolute ultimate universal law. It's not a trend. It's not a trendy song. It's not a trendy reel. It's not anything like that. It's immutable law. It means it doesn't change. It means it stands the test of time. So when over all of art history, people have been marketing their artwork in a myriad of ways. They're not just, here's my art, it's beautiful. Of course the art has to be beautiful. And when there were a lot less, artists, quote unquote, on Instagram, it was a lot easier to consume, right? And when we're learning new consumption habits, this is where we really got to dial in. It's like, okay, when the consumption habit shifts, do I cry about it? Or do I just shift with it and play the game? Because I am running my own business, because I am a CEO. I might be an embodied, relaxed CEO. I might be an spiritual entrepreneur. I'm not running this game like a man might. But at the same time, I know the man's rules. I utilize some of those rules and I play my own as well. So that's how I lead in my feminine leadership and my feminine energy and my divine feminine essence. And I learned how to do that in balance between my masculine and my feminine, right? Because my feminine energy needs support. So my masculine energy comes in there and he's all, hey, queen, I'm going to come over here and support you with systems, strategies, and structures so that you can go off and be your flowy wild thing and do your thing and show yourself off and repel and attract all at one time. That's the whole point for me. I love the way men do business. I love the way men do business. I ain't hating nothing. I love the idea of the patriarchy and this whole thing. But the fun part about it is that I'm not going to make that an excuse as to why I'm not doing anything. I don't go over there being like, well, it's because you've got a dick that you make more money than me. I'm not playing that game. So if, like, why would I say that? Like, just because you've got a dick means you're making more money than me. Why would I give my power away to someone else? Right? Why would I give my power away to a man? All because he's doing something that I desire to do. But if in that moment I'm getting mad and I'm like, oh, well, it's because he's got a dick. That's the reason why he's so famous, and that's the reason why he's so good at his art. Like, nobody would say that to another man. You know what I mean? So it's because you got a dick, that's why you're so successful. Yeah, it is. It's exactly right. Good for him. Thank you. Like, all I see when someone says it's because I have tits and ass that makes me successful is I'm like, thank you for, unfortunately, giving your power away to me and making me responsible for your state of mind and how you feel. Because when people get triggered by you and activated by you, and they don't take that radical responsibility to look at it themselves, shine the light on it, give it some attention that it needs, and then they project out at me, all they're doing is they're giving me their power and making me responsible for their state of mind and for their feelings. And I'm like, wow, you just made me responsible for something I don't want any responsibility toward. That's the reason why I don't react. It's because the moment I react is the moment I say, yes, you're right, I am responsible for how you feel in the online space, so let me tone myself down. And that's what most of us do. We get one piece of hate, we start to play small, we pull back because of the fact that we feel like, well, you're absolutely right. I am responsible for millions of people's feelings and state of being. Fuck that. I am not taking any responsibility for any of that shit. And if I get triggered by your trigger, I will automatically look within and ask myself, okay, what's that mean? What am I making this mean? What needs to be loved on? What needs to be healed? What needs attention within me? Normally it's my little girl. It's the little girl inside of me that's like, oh no, I just want to be liked. I don't want to rock the boat. Like, Reese, do we have to do this? Do we have to play bigger? Like, why can't we just stay right here? Like, I'm just scared. And then when I shift that relationship with that little girl inside me and tell her, do you trust me? Ask her, do you trust me? I've gotten us this far. I know it's scary. And every new up-levelment is going to bring its own little contractions, its crunchiness, its new devils, right? Every new level brings a new devil. And so do you trust me to get us through this? And you know what? For a long time, for years, I'd say, she was like, nodded. I do not trust. We have gotten in ourselves a lot of hate, and it's so scary to get it. And I don't want to feel that anymore. I don't ever want to feel that again. I don't ever want to feel like I'm being pushed out of the tribe. You know, that's simply what it is. Rejection equals death in the mind and the survival mechanisms within our body. And so when we're being rejected, it's like, oh my gosh, this means that I'm going to be without food, without shelter, without water. Because that's what happens when you're rejected, when you're kicked out, when you're cast out from the tribe, especially centuries and centuries and centuries ago when tribe mentality meant survival. Of course that happens. Of course we feel that. Of course, that is so human. And as a woman entrepreneur, as someone that is so like I am, as women, we are just meant to feel. Men too, but women, it's just a little bit different. We just have a little bit different things going on here. And if we avoid feeling the feeling, we lose our magnetism. We lose our that essence with us that creates. And so I'm not trying to cut off the line of connection to my own creativity, my innovation, my soul's purpose on this planet because someone else made me responsible for their feelings in the online space. And I took that responsibility. And so instead of playing big, I play small. I am here to interrupt this podcast to invite you into the best place on the planet. Now, I know you hear me talking about this all the time, But when you are in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs who are ready for growth in all areas of life and business, you can't help but scream it from the rooftops. So if you are looking or desiring to release the overwork and overwhelm in your business, you're looking to increase self-love and self-worth, you want to develop a new, fresh, optimistic, empowering attitude about social media and eliminate the blocks that hold you back so that you can call in higher cash months with ease, join us in the Arc, a place where we make mental and spiritual health number one priority on the list, while simultaneously growing and scaling our tattoo business in the online space. When you join, you get $14,000. You get access to $14,000 in programs, daily trainings, live Q&A calls with me, meditations, masterclasses, all for a no-brainer price of $88 a month. Now, take it from me. It's one of those places when you get in and you taste the Kool-Aid, you're never gonna wanna leave. So get in there. I can't wait to meet you. And this is why it's so interesting when it comes to haters, because they literally find you because they are searching for the thing that you are basically sharing out. And the only way you actually know this is because of the fact, like, let's say, for instance, I have a lot of women entrepreneurs in my space who have fucking modeling careers and, love to get a little naked. I mean, who doesn't love to show off a body they're proud of, right? Like, hello. I find it hilarious. I have clients all the time. Their friends will call me Boobies, and I'm like, good. Call me Boobies. I love my boobs being out. I paid good money for these things. Like, I'm proud of these things. Like, of course I'm going to wear shirts that show off my boobs. Like, I love it. Like, that's me. I love my body. I work really hard for it. So, and like, I'm not mad at that. And I love the little nicknames. I know it means well, it's coming from women, and I love that. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so it's like, if I want to show my body off, if I want to be a model, but I want to be taken seriously in the tattoo industry. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I've been told that a million times. People won't take you seriously in the tattoo industry if you show your face or if you show your body. And this was coming from my friends. These are coming from my peers. My tattooers that I loved. Love, not past tense, still love. I still love them, but the thing is that I listened to a lot of people telling me similar things throughout my life. Play smaller, play big, go big, be a woman of respect, but in the way a man wants it. And I love men. Like, I hate saying it that way because I know not all men are like this, and I certainly get this a lot less, or it's a lot less effective on my psyche because of the fact that I've healed so many things within me. Plus, I've surrounded myself with men that just are like, let me uplift my queen. You know what I mean? Like, and me to him, I'm like, let me uplift my king. Like, it goes both ways, baby. So, like, I'm not trying to hate. But in a male-dominated industry, it has been very much of the men telling me this. The women, unfortunately, if there's any witch hunting going on, we have witch wounds and women against women. It's like, it's normally, similar thing. You get triggered just because they desire to do something that you're doing. And instead of looking at it within themselves, they project it upon you and make you responsible for their feelings and their state of being and their well-being. And then when we get triggered, we say, yes, I take that responsibility, and I start playing a different game, right? I start playing a game that's not aligned with me. And so it's the same thing, but women, the way women do it, unfortunately, is more gossip, more talk behind the back, more hate behind the back. And not necessarily all up front. And sometimes they do up front. Like, sometimes, like in the online space, I get hate from women. It's very, very rare, but it's just really interesting when I do get hate from women, because I'm just like, gosh, like, it just hurts, I think, a little bit more, because I'm like, girl, there ain't many of us in this industry. Like, we got to be over here uplifting each other. We can't be over here fucking bringing each other down because of your fucking triggers. But then at the same time, like, look what's happened. Like, even for me, case in point, is that I was told a lot by men in the industry not to put myself out there, not to put my body out there, not to put my face out there, because I won't be respected. Because I won't be respected by the industry, because I won't be taken seriously by this industry. And yeah, you might get clients but you don't want to get clients that way. And I don't ever remember any of my clients saying, "Oh, I came here because you have great tits." Like, really? No, and I mean, if they did, like, okay, well, you're spending a lot of money an hour just to come and see some titties when you could probably just do that for free in the online space, which is really funny because when men hate on men hate on men. When men hate on women for showing their bodies or whatever, the only reason why, again, think about the algorithm. It's because they're looking at women that are half naked in the online space and just so happens to landed upon a woman that happens to be a tattoo artist as well, and then they're going to hate on them for being a tattoo artist and making money and the way they make money. It's just laughable. So if you think about it, if someone's landing on your content, and especially when your message is dialed in, which is something I'm going to get into right now, it's something I'm going to get into next, it is because they are searching for it. It's not by happenstance. They see a half-naked woman burlesque and she's also a tattoo artist, and then they hate on you because they're also tattooers. So they're into tattoos and half-naked women, and you're a tattoo artist and a half-naked, you like to share your beautiful body in this world. They don't like it. If it's a tattooed half-naked woman that's a model only, they love it. But if you're a tattoo artist and you're talking about the tattoo industry, or if you're talking about making money, or if you're talking about anything other than what their fragile ego needs you to talk about, they will hate. But the funny thing is that they've been looking for you. So that's the only reason why it lands in their algorithm. So I talk about making money, helping art. I love helping artists make money. If you want to make money in your own way, you want to do it with like the balance of the feminine energy and the masculine energy. You really want to lean into your feminine. You want to like heal the parts of you that make you limited, the parts of you that hold you back. I'm here for that shit, and so are they. But they just don't want to do it, or they just don't like it the way you're expressing it. They want you to express it in a way that makes them feel comfortable. But the problem is with making people feel comfortable is that you don't become stand out. Now, early days of marketing, when people were standing out more, right? It was like you stand out when you have amazing, amazing artwork, right? You have this amazing artwork, and then you go get tattooed by that person. And then you get the experience and their vibe and their essence. And oh my God, you're like, oh, I could never go to anybody else. Case in point, Matt Tisch. I love Matt Tisch. He's fucking amazing. He's a badass. He is definitely he's got like man's man mentality, but he has that open heart to like, he's not very, like, I don't know, I can't say this, but like, he's not like my most spiritual, like, he's like not my spiritual homie, but he like just accepts me for who I am, which is really hard to find in this industry when you've met people that have been it for so fucking long that they have been set in their ways. And so when he's just like, Reese, you fucking crazy girl. Like, I fucking love it. Like, I love. And of course, it's the reason why I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars getting my body tattooed by him, because he's given me that good vibe. Now, in the beginning, when he first started, and I'm only saying this because this is his journey that he told me about, and I'm sure he tells every artist about that he tattoos, because he tattoos a lot of tattooers, is that like, it was a lot easier because he was one of the forefront people to get on the platform when it first opened. Right? Because at the time, and we as tattooers, God bless us, but we have a hard time with change. We want to do our own things. Trust me, when the iPad first came out, I was like, no, I'm not, no. I remember when the fucking iPad came out, I was like, I'm going to take 2 hours to diddle my own stencils on the paper. I'm going to do the printout, make sure the printout's the size it needs to be, diddle it on the back of that piece of paper, put it on the body. If it didn't land right and I got to do another stencil, I got to spend another hour doing another one, right? Like, I was just not having none of it. I wanted to keep my Photoshop on my computer and not do anything else, right? And then the iPad came out and I was like, ugh, and I couldn't, oh man, it was so funny. Trying so hard to to move, to change. And that's like the funniest part about us, is that we have this hard time with change. And so you think about it, when Instagram or social media started to first come out, a lot of tattooers were like, no, I'm not doing it. When TikTok first came out, a lot of tattooers were like, no, I'm not doing it. And so of course the people in the forefront, the people that are the pioneering, they're like, well, I'm not going to hate the game. I'm not going to hate the game. I'm going to play the game, right? They're going to play the game. So what Matt did, what a lot of artists did, they hopped on, they started posting their tattoos, and that's all they did. They posted their tattoos because Instagram at the time was a photo consumption, photo consumed platform. And it's changed because Instagram had to change in order to make sure that they still were like the forefront of everybody's mind when it comes to social media apps. So what happens? Evolution. Our brains did the same thing. When we no longer needed only the survival mechanisms of our brains to understand fight or flight, there was another part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex at the forefront of our brain to actually differentiate what actually is necessary for survival. We have a conscious mind that says, oh, here's this feeling in my body, fight or flight. Oh my God, I got to survive. And then I actually can look at these two feelings and be like, actually, we're not being chased by a bear right now. I'm just getting hated on by a troll on the internet. And so we don't actually have to fight or flight. That part of our brain has been, through evolution, had to actually be created through this new world that we live in. So just like anything, everything has to evolve. So marketing doesn't mean, that it was easier back in the day. I didn't have to do anything, and all of a sudden I get tattoos. Of course, the industry has gotten bigger, and it will continue to get bigger, just like any industry. When doctors first came about, that industry got huge. When accountants first came out, that industry got huge. When truck drivers were needed for deliveries, that industry got huge. Mailing industry everything continues to grow and evolve, but that doesn't mean that there's not enough room for all of us. We just have to understand that through evolution, things are going to shift, change, and morph. And if I really want to play a fun game for the next however many years that we have on this planet, like 75 years is on average how many years you live. So why not just play in the game of evolution? And yes, our world, if you're born in this time, evolution's really, really fast because we're getting really fucking smart. Smart, so smart like we're stupid. So smart that it's like, oh my gosh, too smart for our own goods, And we set ourselves back a million steps because we're trying to jump a billion steps forward, which God, I love humans. Humans are great. It's just crazy pants. So we got to open ourselves up to change. And the only way we know how to change with ease is by making our relationship to ourselves a priority. Because it's not the world that hates. It's not, the outside world doesn't, it's like, not, it is what it is. Your experience of life is yours alone. What you pay attention to is yours alone. Like, I could be in the same room watching the same television show and noticing different things than you would in that television show based on your own filters. And so this is why it's like you create your own reality. And so when we go into this world, okay, now we're back to it, marketing and messaging, right? Marketing, you've always had to market. It always was just different in any time that you were marketing your business. You get really good at your artwork, yes, first and foremost, and then you go out there and you network. Michelangelo, boom shakalaka. He lied to his dad, said that he got a huge commission when really he spent all of his money on this big old slab of marble from some, I think it was a church or chapel or something. He bought this big slab of marble that was just hanging out in the backyard, and he was like, hey bro, can I buy this marble off you? He told his dad that he was being commissioned by this church, and he was going to actually sell it to this church. That was his whole game. He would break in to mortuaries and morgues so that he could study the human body, which was absolutely illegal. He could get pretty much hung for that shit. And then he started to create the David. And then he fucked up on the David, and thankfully had enough slab of marble on the back of the head to recreate the whole front, because it was off. Because there was something off. And so he studied and he worked his ass off. But you know what? If he would have kept that marble to himself, nobody would have ever known who Michelangelo was. So what the motherfucker do? He went out. He networked. He social media'd in his social media way. He made himself be bigger, stand out, yes, with his artwork, but also with his motherfucking vibe. People really liked Michelangelo. They wanted him to do all of the things. He was highly, highly, highly commissioned by so many people, by chapels, by rich people, trying to do things that he actually didn't even want to do. The Sistine Chapel, he didn't want to be a painter. He wanted to be a motherfucking sculptor. So he was like, I don't want to be a painter. I want to be a sculptor. Yet the commission was just so good, you know, and people just wouldn't take no for an answer because they just loved him so much, right? So yeah, the art is the fact. The fact is you do good art, right? That's the first and foremost. Yes, of course, you want to do well. But what Michelangelo did, he would go out, he would get to know people, he would network, and then at night he'd be fucking working on getting better at his art. He worked on becoming the best of the best, world-class fucking work, world-class fucking networking. And so then when everything came together, he was able to basically blow up overnight. And people were like, oh, it's just because of his artwork. There are a lot of people out there that did really amazing artwork back then. Even back then, you guys, but the only ones we remember are the ones that we know because they were the ones who fucking decided to put their ass on the line, network, market, right? Marketing. So, case in point, marketing has been happening since the dawn of motherfucking time. You were trying to sell a piece of glass, like a cup, whatever it is, they marketed you. They haggled you in the streets. They talked to you. They gave you deals. They were like, "Ooh, here's this. This is what you want." Let's not play like we haven't been doing that the entire time we've been tattoo artists. Let's not play it was somehow easier back in the day. The only reason why you see it as easier back in the day is because something within you does not want to change today. Everybody always looks at their past and is like, "Oh, that was easier. That was easier back then. It was easier back then. Why is it so hard now?" That's because that's a belief you put in your body. So now everything you do today is hard. But we can actually shift that belief within you. You can actually reprogram your subconscious mind and say, actually, no, everything I do today is easeful. It does actually get to be easy. If I choose for it to be easy, that's my experience of life. Because someone else that's doing the same fucking thing, marketing on social media, they went out there like Michelangelo, they fucking worked their booty holes off to make sure that their artwork was amazing, and they worked on getting better at networking and marketing. It's not that it was like any harder. It's just that most artists just choose hard. They choose the perspective of hard, the perception of hard. And then so when they got to learn something new, it's like, oh God, oh no. It's like, and then they play the victim. And then they blame everything outside of themselves for the reason why things are hard. And that's why people get triggered in the online space. So, always marketing. Marketing's been there since the dawn of time. People will get triggered by who you are being. Always. Doesn't matter if you're playing small or you're playing big. Okay? Next is the message. So, messaging. Your message, if it's probably getting hated on, it's probably doing something right, is what people normally say, right? But at the same time, of course, we don't want to bypass the part that we have to feel it all. So this is where we get to really lean into the feminine energy. It's like, oh, I'm actually not going to bypass the fact that like I could logically talk myself out of being hated on and playing big. No, I'm actually going to feel my feels. I'm going to let myself feel whatever it is I need to feel, because the little girl in me is afraid of rejection. And of course, that's what we've been taught. And I've experienced a lot of rejection, and it sucks. Of course it sucks. I fucking hate rejection. It doesn't feel good in my body. And I get to love on that part of myself, heal that layer, because there's always going to be deeper and deeper layers of this. And I get to move forward and continue to be in alignment with my messaging and my movement. So the thing is that if you really desire to be magnetic, if you really desire to attract people into your space, you are going to have to understand the law of polarity, which means that you will repel people as well. And if you're not repelling people, that means that your message is not hitting. It's just not hitting. People, it's not hitting in the way that you'd like it to. To be disruptive is to own who you are. A lot of times we take ourselves out of the game and we make it really hard for our business by all of a sudden something hard hitting us, someone rejecting us. We in turn reject ourselves because we believe them. And then we take ourselves out of the game and we begin to play small. And then it gets really hard because then all of a sudden we're not attracting the clients that we desire. We're feeling like we're chasing, we're feeling scarcity, we're feeling lack. And so the whole thing about healing first, or not healing first, but healing as you are coinciding and growing a business, is that we are going to have to be able to hold hard things that happen in business, because that's inevitable. Hard things that happen in life, because it's inevitable. Your soul chose to be here. Your soul chose this life, to be here during this time. For me, that's like, I wonder why. Out of all the times that I probably lived that I just don't remember, why this life? Why this body? Why this, And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to spend my whole life figuring that out. I'm going to spend my whole life remembering why I'm here, because I know it's in there. I know that knowledge is in there. I feel it every day. Every time I feel something good, every time something's pulling me towards something, every time I feel a desire and I'm like, yes, that's for me. Let's go. That's me following in my path. That's me following in my dharma and in my alignment. And when I do that, that's when the messaging starts to come through. And all of a sudden your message is like, you start to really notice like what that is. You're like, okay, oh, wow. And then it becomes like a cadence. You're like, every time I show up like myself, every time I start to be free, I start to unlock new messaging, new ideas. What am I really here for? What's my purpose? And then you get into this mode of like, oh, well, this, oh, well, this, oh, well, this. When I first started teaching anything to tattoo artists, I knew I wanted to teach meditation, didn't know how to do it. So all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to teach marketing because that's what they keep asking for. And then as I got into marketing, I was like, but we keep leaning back into messaging. We keep leaning back into mindset and mental health. And every time I would teach someone something with marketing, it would always lead us back to mindset, mental health, spiritual health. And I was like, well, why don't I just do both at the same time? And really see how brave people can be. Because I want to be a courage coach. I'm your courage coach over here. Like, I want to help you first gain courage to be the unfuckwithable, the you that you desire to be. Because once you start to step into that aspect of yourself, that's when you start to unlock all the other parts. Like, what am I here to do? What is my message? What would be the sign that I'm holding up that every artist or every client that I desire in my space would bandwagon upon? And it's normally what you try to hide. It's normally the parts of us that we try to hide that we think are wrong or we shame. And so this is where acceptance becomes such a huge part to your own self-love journey, because all of a sudden you accept the parts of yourself, then you're like, wow, actually that's a big reason why I do what I do. So when I start actually getting in tuned, like when I start to accept myself, getting in tune with who I truly am, I start to unlock the messaging that I really desire to share with the world. And as I do that, more action creates more clarity and more and more and more and more. So when I first started, it was like, let me teach social media. Then it was like, okay, well, no, I want to teach like mental health and meditation. I was like, wait a minute, but how can I bring those two together? Oh my gosh, now I want to teach tattoo artists how to be coaches. And now I want to teach tattoo artists how to be educators, mentors, coaches, create programs so that they can do the same thing. Because every one of us, when we find our fulfillment and purpose, all of a sudden it's just like boom, 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 and things feel so fucking good. So the way that you really find that messaging within yourself, something that you're like, I fucking, like, this is what I stand for. Like, I stand for this shit. And I stand for it, but I know that if I stand for it, that other people are feeling this vibe. And the more that I can show up and share that, the more people will really resonate with what I have to say. And that, again, in turn, repels people on what you have to say. When you are creating your message, when you're creating your movement, it comes from a place within you that feels like it's been caged. Feels like it's been locked up in a cage for a long time. And I know that there is a part of you that feels like, oh my God, yes, there's something that's just dying to get out, that's just dying to be free within me, and I just don't know what it is, and I just don't know how to get it out there, right? So what we do is, for me, I sit and meditate. Meditation every single day, baby. You cannot stop me. It is honestly, it is the bread and butter to everything that I've ever created in my whole life, is that better relationship with myself, that muscle I'm practicing on how to focus within. Because we have so many things distracting us in the outside world, so many things, that we don't have the strength to focus, to pay attention. And when we strengthen that muscle, we unlock all the parts of ourselves and we start to shine a light. We become more aware, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 here comes this message within me that I was just like, oh my God, it was there the whole time. It was just right there. Like, it was just right there. And so there is going to be a part of you that really lights you the fuck up. What do you believe in? Like, what is it that you like truly believe in? What are you afraid of? That is normally really where you're going to find out what you believe in, because you're really afraid of it. What are you really afraid of? And not just because when I go down this list with people, I'm like, oh, okay, what are you really afraid of? People are like, well, showing my face online. Okay, so, why showing your face online? Well, because, I know that a lot of artists say that if they show their face online, they won't be taken seriously. Okay, so where in that, why do you think you won't be taken seriously? It's like, and then they just go down and they go down and they go down. And then really it comes down to like, oh, well, when I was a little kid, I got kicked out of this club because of my hair. And it's like, oh, okay, so we're just fearing rejection here. So let's get self-expressed. So the more that we become like self-expressed, we start to realize like, wow, I actually became a tattoo artist because I was so afraid of rejection that instead I was like, I'm going to be so rebellious and create my own vibe, protect my own self. And now I'm realizing that as I begin to heal through this work, through self-expression, now I get to be self-expressed and I help other people become self-expressed. Boom. Like, that's kind of my journey. And I'm sure that's very similar to yours if you're listening to this. So this gets to morph and choose. And this is where like unapologetic self-expression really comes so handy for you to really unlock your purpose, your message, your movement, your brand within the tattoo industry, within entrepreneurship, within your business. Because that action will create the clarity of what it is that you're hiding, dial that up, show everyone how you walk through hard things, and then unlock that message. And when you can dial into that message, which I have done over the years, like, it's not something that's so simple. Yes, and there's simple steps that you can take, absolutely. But at the same time, it's like action's going to create the clarity. You need to take the steps. If you are afraid to show up online, then maybe it's time you maybe just kind of ripped off that Band-Aid. And then and then getting really, really aware of when it feels the most triggering. Because when that feels most triggering, ooh, baby, I hope you have a little time to go within you and start to love on that little girl that's scared. Because you got to reparent her or him in order for them to be okay with what it is that you're doing. So that you basically regulate your nervous system. And so that when you do hard things that create change and walk into the unknown, it becomes more easeful. A lot of messages within this podcast. I'm sure I'm just going to be talking about this a lot more because this is what we're talking about in BTS, Beyond the Stars. And so it's one of those things where wherever the stories are alive and aligned for me, they're going to be coming through in the podcast. So I hope that this message was super helpful. Please let me know. I always love hearing your guys' feedback on the podcast, and it's something that I just really enjoy doing for me. And I really just love sharing my own mind with all of you. That's why we call it the Mind of Reese. So sending you guys so much love and light, and I'll see you in the next episode.